Hi, everyone. Good morning from Arizona. Good afternoon on the East Coast or visiting us from other parts of the world. My name is Nicole Mead. I'm with the Simple View marketing team. I'm going to be your moderator today for Content Personas, Opportunities You May Be Missing. A little bit of logistics. This is being recorded. You will be sent an email with the recording and the slide presentation, and this will be available in the portal as usual tomorrow. With that, just put any questions or concerns you have into the chat box. I'll be monitoring throughout, and if needed, we'll have a Q&A at the end with Crystal. With that, I will pass it over to our expert and let you all enjoy today's presentation. Thank you very much.
Hello and good morning. I really want to thank you for attending today's webinar and taking time out of your day. Today we will be covering content personas and opportunities that you may be missing. And I'm Crystal Trujillo. I am a product education specialist here at Simple View. And I've been with the company about 2 years. I've definitely gone through my fair share of hair colors. But you may have seen me on other webinars or on your documentation, or I may have trained you or your team when going through this. But enough about me. Really what we're wanting to focus is to talk about personas and really content trends. Because, when you think about personas as a whole, we're thinking about the personalization of our content. It's tailoring out how we are presenting your destination as a whole. So, you're finding those segments that you are really trying to make sure that you are connecting to. Because personas are really important in overall content strategy just for conversions, because the more you're connecting to your audience, the more that you can help influence them to take action, make changes, do that thing. So just kind of having that understanding is really, really helpful. But really what we're going to be talking about throughout this presentation is we're going to be really looking and discovering trending content personas that you could be reaching, and then also learning considerations, preparation, and implementation of best practices to include it in your content. And also just to gain that understanding of the long-term benefits of targeting a variety of your audiences. So we talk about the missing element here. This is something that we hear a lot of, is that you can just get caught up in a sea of sameness. We all tend to look at the same visitors and then also kind of provide the same messaging. So, looking at these different trends, it helps look at your destination through a different lens. It does more than just to open up to a wider audience, and it can bring light to areas of development for you and your partners that can grow upon together. It's a balance. It's about keeping up with what's important now and still supporting yourself for the future. But this can also benefit your partners in the fact that in some ways, some may be hesitant to make moves with these content trends, without a little bit of guidance. So taking all of these trends and really looking at it through the lens of content creation, that's what we're going on, and doing these items, these practices, these consideration, it makes you not only an industry leader, it makes you a community leader, as we're all looking for more relevance, more connections to our communities and within our communities. And I really want to emphasize the last bullet point, that everyone has the right to travel. And we'll be really looking into ways that you can accomplish this. So our content topic number 1 is talking about accessibility. So this is a growing awareness trend from more of a functional standpoint. It's making your destination accessible, and it's becoming more and more of something that we're becoming aware of, from meeting ADA requirements to using AudioEye to make your site easier to access, but looking at it from a content perspective to really just help massage your view on your own destination. So what are we coming up against? We're really starting to look at fall content. That's the season we're coming upon. And, from any, DMO perspective, especially that have trees, Tucson, it's a little bit different. But, the first thing you always see in that focus is on the fall colors. And, if you're thinking at it from like an audio perspective, if somebody's using a screen reader to access your site, and you're talking about fall colors, you're not exactly connecting to the audience that's using your site. But when you think about fall, you realize that it's just so much more than that. It's a feeling, it's the nip in the air, it's that crispness, it's the sound of the crunch beneath your feet of leaves. I love that. I am a big leaf cruncher. And it's also the smell, the smell of the leaves, that smell of fall. And I mean, even if we want to, face that, it's even a taste if we want to be honest about pumpkin spice. But, fall is just so much more than those colors. It's the entire experience of it all. And it's really just taking that one concept and expanding it out to really just open the breadth of that experience in your content itself. So, for travelers with different ability levels, accessibility is always going to be a first consideration when it comes to travel. And a lot of DMOs are starting to create accessibility guides for tourist information and resources for local businesses. And this can make a lot of difference for your partners to understand, things to consider for their businesses and even make recommendations within your destination. So, when thinking of the service industry and things that they may struggle with when it comes to different ability levels, any resource can make and assist in making that interaction happen with more confidence and understanding. So when I was creating this deck, I was talking with one of my team members about content expectations, and she gave me a lot of information about accessibility and things that she's looking for when planning a vacation. But when I said, well, we're not looking at accessibility, but content, she told me I wouldn't even know what to think if there was content that was created or catered to us. And that statement, and she's somebody that works within the tourism industry, so that statement alone gives you an idea that there is a focus more so on the resources than on the experience. So you want to enable participation and enjoyment of tourism experiences within your destination. And, innovation, that's the key. So when you're thinking about messaging around this, you really first and foremost want to start with the person and the interest. This is thinking of usability of your destination and the partners within it. So it's creating those connections. And then you follow with the needs or disabilities second. It's not removing the how and that functional out of your content, but it's really talking about like the why and the who, and that's what you're leading with. So when you're creating that, you just kind of want to keep that in mind. And then also looking at your community and, with any sort of regular events or big events that you have there, is there a way of making those accessible as well and including that guidance for them? Can you host an event there or just include a day that's sensory sensitive, lower lights or sounds, is there easy ways to getting there? So it's talking about accessibility, but also the interest that goes with it. Because, there's so many people nowadays, this is a growing content trend, is that you don't know who, you're thinking about family, who does that family include? And does it include somebody with different abilities? That does include somebody with different needs? This is just ways of considering while you're creating content and messaging around this. So first and foremost, usability and accessibility are really two different concepts. You can make anything accessible, but that doesn't mean somebody will want to use it. This is still content. You're still inspiring people with whatever you're creating. You also want to think about the experience from all abilities, senses, and beyond. And you can see how it beefs up how you think and how you talk about your destination and your content. And then always, back to, are there events that you can bring into your destination, or feature? If there's something that you can champion and stuff like that, that can help bridge the gap between any businesses that may be hesitant to, work with different abilities, because, if there are events, if it can show that there's ways that you can incorporate it in your community, it just makes it that much easier, and again, that much more confident to address. So our next content topic, is LGBTQ plus. This is an easier topic to already work with, because there's a lot of information about LGBTQ plus travel. There's a lot of DMOs that have charted this content already and found extensive brand and destination loyalty from doing this. There's a lot of social listening and a breaking of biases in travel in that LGBTQ community. So what really can be taken from approaching this content topic is the inclusivity of your destination. But now it's so much more than that. It's also creating the idea that in being inclusive, the destination is also safe. This understanding is reaching far beyond the LGBTQ community. It's content that's creating a culture of trust. A lot of the original content that exists out there was kind of built off the idea of the persona being young, dual income couples, no kids, and a lot of what was being created was focused towards that market. But now we're seeing a lot more of family or even retirement travel, which really folds into your general content that can be found on your site. So it can be easy to take and sorry, it can be really easy to take LGBTQ content too far, to the point where it's almost corralling, because if you're trying to say, here's the places you can go and this is the things you can do, you're just kind of corralling into those areas instead of really thinking about your destination as a whole. And that's when it starts to lose that messaging of inclusivity. So it's really important to be able to find the balance between that featured and tailored content and what's already existing in your site for the general travelers. So it's essentially creating an alliance between your destination brand and its culture for everyone. Again, there is a lot of content out there, a lot of information available to you, but there's an element that could be expanded upon, and that's really bringing in cultural diversity in this LGBTQ content. So, going back to the original idea of sea of sameness, that applies to any type of content. So, adding in diversity in this aspect really does more than just talking to your different audience, but it promotes that safety for absolutely everyone. So, as an example, and a shout out to Bloomington, Indiana, they have a really good LGBTQ travel site that incorporates a lot of these ideas into their content. So, you can see it's part of their regular site. They have their opening header image, but then they go into the messaging. And this is a very well crafted message because it talks first to their destination as a whole. It then talks to their destination as LGBTQ friendly. But the really part that really got to me and really stood out was this quote of, whether you're gay, straight, or somewhere in between, Bloomington offers something rarely found in this country, a small town with a bold history of openness and acceptance. So this is just a way of just talking about it in general, not saying just this, not just LGBTQ community, it's everyone. It's open and safe, and it makes it just a warm and inviting place without taking away of any of its natural charm, and not taking from anything from the rest of the site. And then also it was a quote from LGBTQ media from Out Traveler magazine, which is another really smart way of kind of adding authority to what they're speaking to. And then we look at their regular content. You can see that it's a mix between LGBTQ plus tailored content, but also, like BU and Bloomington, but then you also have live music. And live music is anyone, but it's showing that you have those connections. So you're talking about, again, things that are happening in your community as a whole, and things that you can cater to specifically for that community. So you can see that they also have a guide. We're on a guide kick, giving where to stay, but this is just really creative and inclusive just in how they put everything together. So, in this year, 2020, the year of pivoting content, this is really a perfect time to look and assess what you are including as part of your destination messaging. It's about looking beyond any assumptions that you may have already made. And for this type of content, you want to think of it as a filter and not the only choice. You can filter out to the different interests, to things that may be LGBTQ plus tailored, but it should be part of the choice and still be talking about your destination as a whole. Information is at your fingertips, from pronoun usage to content needs. This is where I found, the lack of diversity in promoting LGBTQ plus travel. So listen to your consumers to gain perspective on what's being assumed, what's being perceived, and really to gain that guidance on what content needs to address. And then this is, a kind of a given in this one is, it's really helpful to advertise in both LGBTQ plus and mainstream media. So if you've created this content and you're looking at promoting it, a really good ROI that people are getting is from marketing in both areas. And so content topic number 3 is sustainability. Not only is this growing by the day, but it's a very attractive topic as it can really drive people to your destination who care about sustainability, along with the long-term benefits to your destination itself. So when you're promoting, this care and consideration of where you live, it really translates to quality. You think of good care as good service, and in many of your destinations, this topic is alive and well, and this is just ways that you can now plant it into your content. So, right now, especially during this pandemic and how people are starting, to come out of this, especially in outdoor markets, we're starting to see kind of more of a rising tension between residents and tourists just because of how outdoor areas are being treated. It's easy to say that when you see a lot of out of state license plates, but we as people working in destination know that it's also coming from our locals and our drive markets. So really being able to promote this in your content itself, it's important to do this because it sets the precedent and it can educate how to treat our areas. We can no longer assume that people know how to treat your destinations. So taking out what you bring in doesn't always click. It's good to create that fundamental information, not only to educate, but you can also involve your community for input when you're creating this. So, and I know I'm focusing a lot on outdoor markets, but you can do this for city markets too. There's a lot of sustainability efforts that are happening, and being able to do this. And being able to do this even by, like, if you have a visitor center, you can say you can always fill up your water bottle at our visitor center, or just kind of throwing it in. And I'm seeing this a lot too for blogs, because we're talking about blogs, we're talking about our outdoor markets, we're bringing all this information. you know if you're creating that guide, it's just connecting to it, whether it be a link, or you're using a visual call to action or something like that. But you can be able to say, yes, here's all the great parks, and here's ideas here's our guidance, our pledge around being able to emphasize what you're protecting and then how to approach it. So, like I said, this could be as easy as creating information pages and linking them out, or making digital guides, and then using visual cues in your content to promote sustainable movements. I mean, right now, people are really, really taking notice of visual cues, especially when we're talking about safety precautions and safety measures, having a badge, having, some sort of sign. People are looking for that idea. And that also applies to sustainability movements. So if you have a logo, you have a brand, you have something you want to use the recycle logo, leave something like that. But it's just showing, that you are taking this movement seriously. Once you have these programs established, you're having these items that you're doing. Now it's just incorporating it in your content, whether it's just a small call out or it's something that you're really trying to push. So when we're talking about if we always want to go for good examples, we like to use Innovation Norway. They were very, very great about creating a sustainability page that talks about areas, that talks about talking about visual cues. They have this Eco Tourism Norway logo that's put throughout different areas. And then they even have eco-friendly listings that go through it. So you talk about this experience, you're looking at it as a whole. You're talking about what's important, what you're doing, but then you're talking about it, how it's involved in your community, in your destination, talking about green travel. This is not only inspirational, it's informational, and it's a really good way of being able to approach this. So shout out to our Innovation Norway team. So now going back into this is that you want to use this content to set expectations for visiting your destination. Again, for locals and visitors as well. It's addressing the challenge that comes from being successful in your destination and kind of getting ahead of the curve. And, in the end, it's the impact it ends up having, that lasting impact on your local culture. These programs are just great to have, but now you can just incorporate in your everyday content vernacular of being able to create that awareness, create that importance. And it matters. It matters a lot to your destination. It brings that relevance back into your community. It brings that connection into how you're approaching being in your destination, and not being pushy, but just really making sure that you're showing that this is important to you as much as them coming in. And, save the whales. So now we've looked at different content trends, and it's really good to know we've looked at ideas of how you can incorporate this into it's really looking at the ideas, looking at the different approaches, and how it can be incorporated into your content trends. We've looked at good examples, and we're really looking at the ideas as a whole. So now you can take these and really look into the next steps. Now, for any new kind of involvement, or any sort of strategic planning, it's always good to get your stakeholders involved as early as possible. That kind of buy-in can do a lot for your content creation, because you don't know who can give you more information, more resources, more guidance. So having those stakeholders involved in that messaging, and then that's really, finding your subject matter experts. And then also that way you can clearly start addressing that information or any misinformation that may have come out. We're not perfect, So, but do know that if you're not providing this information, it will be they will find it somewhere. Somebody is promoting this. So it's better to just incorporate it into your message and really kind of get ahead of it and control of it before they go and look for it somewhere. And really all it takes is that first steps. This can be very challenging, I'm not going to lie, but it's also very, very rewarding. Look at the resources that you have in your community to take this first step. Senior centers can help immensely with accessibility information. There's tons and tons of LGBTQ guidance plus guidance, and Colleges are swarming with your next traveling generation that cares deeply about sustainability, all of which can help you create and vet out your communications. So, we're not striving for perfection. Perfection can hinder progress. And, we can't guarantee that everyone will buy in, but if you're involving your community from the start, they are will be your biggest champions for this. And so, if you're thinking about planning and stuff, because it's sometimes can be hard to measure, you also want to bring in like scenario planning. You don't know how consumers are going to respond, but like I said, if you're bringing in your community, not only are you driving that awareness, but it can also help with any negative feedback that may come out with like newly introduced concepts. It can happen. And it's also very helpful to document your assumptions at the very beginning for that strategic planning. That way, starting with your assumptions, it's an easier way to help measure results after your content is already launched. So this can be, like I said, hard to measure at first, but like anything new, it's about taking that plunge with a thought of growth. So, if you're looking into this, you can always reach out to your Simple View team. We are always here to help and support you. Um, if you have questions, by all means, you can reach out to me directly. I am right here in the back of this large group, but we're all here, like I said, to support and help you take these next steps. Thank you so much for attending.
All right, thank you guys. It looks like we don't have any immediate questions right now. So again, as Crystal said, reach out to your team. There's also marketing@simpleviewinc.com. With that, we'll let you get to the rest of your day. Thank you so much, Crystal, and we will see you all at our future webs. Thank you.